going to say that for you, and I'll be seeing that later. And I'm sure that Mrs. Carr will be seeing it as well. We're moving on. Now, to give the children practice in writing these lines, they don't write solid lines first. So what we need to do is to have practice sheets like this, or we can just write the dotted lines for ourselves in this direction. But at first, you would not give them a sheet with all of this. You'll just have one directional one. For example, if you look at the ones under the apple, the vertical ones, you'd want to be giving them that one first. Practice with that one. You can find individual sheets with vertical dotted lines on the internet that you can actually copy, or you can write what you see on the screen on a sheet in the dotted lines and allow the child to trace. So tracing is very important in helping the children to move from just drawing any line anywhere to developing directionality, where you start with the vertical, then the horizontal, and so on and so forth, move to the circular one, and then the diagonals, okay? So this kind of activity is good. If you have your phone, you can actually take a picture, and you're not using it for the presentation, you can actually take a picture of the sheet to remind you of what I'm talking about, all right? Okay. We also, as they learn to do the dotted line tracing, we also want to ensure that we're preparing them to write across a page. So as they move from the individual directional shapes, dotted lines tracing, and you move on to this kind of left to right orientation. So this one shows a car at the top, and you make it interesting. Okay, this makes it interesting. So the car will drive from over on the left side here toward the right, and the child can use a finger to follow the line, and then use a pencil or crayon. And we try to use bigger pencils at first. Some persons start with the small ones, some start with the big ones. But we usually try to start with the bigger ones, like jumbo crayons or jumbo pencils, because there's difficulty. The children have difficulty gripping the small ones if their finger muscles are not properly developed. All right. To develop the finger muscles, we ensure that there are some tips for that further down on the slides. But there are activities to develop the finger muscles so that they actually can grasp the big writing implements, such as jumbo crayons and pencils, and then gradually move to the smaller ones. You'll see that list further on, and I'll mention it again. Notice the directionality of these lines as well. Some of them are wavy, some are angular, but all of that is necessary because they'll be using those curved lines as well as angular lines as they write letters and words. So it's very important. This also is another left to right orientation activity where you make it interesting. The butterfly is trying to go from flower to flower. It's flitting from flower to flower. So you're going to take the butterfly to the first one, then take the butterfly to the second one, and have them trace the line. Now, at first, they won't be able to trace closely. All right, you might find that they're somehow moving from left to right, but it is jerky. You have them moving upward, downward, and it might not follow the line smoothly. But when they begin to trace in such a way that they're following the line smoothly, you will find that they will be, it means that they are better controlling the pencil movements, okay? So that they're better able to write. Now, on this particular slide as well, you can notice that there are some curved movements. So those loops at the bottom actually helps them to learn to write the circular parts of letters. Yes? To learn to write the circular parts of letters, where the kite is. So the kite moves in a circular motion. And notice that you do it in an anti-clockwise way, because most of the circular parts of letters like common D are actually going from left to right. And then they put the stick on, the vertical line on. So all of this is to help them as well, not just with left to right orientation, but also with the kind of wrist movements and finger movements that must happen as they form different parts of letters. And this is very important, or later on, you'll find that they have difficulty with handwriting. And according to the curriculum, when it comes to writing, that's the primary curriculum. When it comes to writing, students need to be able to write legibly. So you want to ensure that they're able to form the letters well. All right, so here are the activities that I was mentioning, that I had mentioned before, that we need to have or have the children participate in order to build their fine motor skills, build their finger muscles so that they can write better. So for muscle training, you can have them string beads. So put beads on strings or on a kind of stiff plastic kind of string, like twine, plastic twine, or on yarn. The stiff plastic twine will actually help them earlier because they can hold it still and put it on. You have to show them how to do it. Do it with them so it is fun. All right, we're making a necklace and you have them putting the beads on. Some beads tend to be choking hazards. So if they're going to be using beads and buttons and so on to string, to create like a necklace, so the project could be like creating a necklace, but it's actually to build the muscles. You have to ensure that you monitor them because they're choking hazards. They might put them in their mouths, they might put them in their noses, and then you have a health crisis on your hand. So stringing beads help. Closing and opening bottles. You see like the plastic bottles with those plastic covers. Closing and opening the bottles can also help to strengthen their finger muscles as well as strengthen the wrist for any wrist movement. All right, molding of Play-Doh and modeling clay is also very good for building muscles. And for using writing tools, we have to give them scribbling practice. So you give them blank sheets to scribble on. No matter how many it takes, you allow them to scribble and show them how to use the implement. Okay, coloring helps a lot. So it's good to have like coloring books around and have them coloring. And at first, they won't color within the shapes very well. The shape might be one place and they're coloring another spot. Or they try to color the shape and it's going all over the place. Or color the picture and the crayon is going all over the place. But you can urge them along by telling them, try and keep it inside here. See how mommy is doing it? And you have them do it. So coloring, tracing, scribbling are help to build writing skills, and the tools involve crayons, so coloring with crayons, scribbling with crayon or pencil, tracing with crayon or pencil. Also tracing with the finger to get where the lines over there, but they'll get the directionality of the lines. I hope it's clear so far. In terms of writing, right after they learn all those formations, building of the muscles, the different directional tracings, and the writing solid lines by themselves without the tracing and so on, you find that they're well on their way to be able to write letters, and it goes up the line. All right, letters first at the bottom, then they're able to put letters together to write words, then sentences, paragraphs, and essays. And this is the parameter, the gamut, the range of areas in writing that we look at when we talk about writing. So the mechanical part I just discussed with you, or the physical part I just discussed with you. Much of what remains is both mechanical, but mostly mental. Writing begins at a mental level in terms of thinking. After you develop the physical aspect, then it's all about a lot of thinking about words, thinking about sentences, thinking about speech patterns, thinking about what they've heard and what they've seen, and talking about it and writing about it. So this is the range of skills. These are the range of skills generally that we expect students to get to by the time they get to grade 6 in the primary schools. So this is the end of the early writing skills section. So if you have any questions or statements, you can put them in the chat. And of course, Mrs. Carr will ensure that I can respond to those at a reasonable time. So now we're looking at growing in writing, okay? So we have gotten to the point where they are ready to write letters, they're writing letters, and we want them to grow in writing. So here we go. Here are some avenues for writing development. Listening. What children hear, they will say, and when it's time to write, they will write it the way that they say it. All right, observing. They need to be able to see picture scenes, they need to see real life scenes, and of course, the speaking skills where they can talk about whatever they're seeing in pictures or whatever they have experienced. That is a part of the mental part of writing. You're building ideas in their minds. You're helping them to hear how the language sounds, so that when they're ready to write, they can think and write well. All right? Okay. So these are avenues of development. So it means that we need to be talking with our children, talking to them even long before they could talk, so they can hear the language. Also, that we allow them to listen to recorded materials, recorded sentences, recorded stories, and allow them to observe things that they can talk about, and we ask them questions about it. All right, so these are some tips for helping them to develop the writing mentally in how they think about the language and use it. All right, thank you. All right, so we are moving on. There is a connection between speaking and writing, and this comic strip here actually tells a story about little Beyonce. She says, "Mommy say, draw the boy and write where I do." That's the language in which Mommy expressed it to Beyonce. And Beyonce says, "The boy I run down the dog." That's the idea she has. The boy I run down the dog. And that is what she wants to write. So she writes it. Mommy now is saying that she's talking foolishness. What kind of foolishness is that you're writing? What kind of foolishness that you're writing? And now the child is confused. How am I to write it? Why is the child confused? Somebody can respond to that question for me, please. Why is the child confused about how to write about the boy and what he's doing? You can unmute. Somebody, you can unmute to speak to me about that, please. Why is this child confused about what to write? Any takers on that one?
She's confused because of the way the mother speaks it to her.
Thank you very much. How do you think this could be changed to help the child?
By using proper English.
What do you think? By using English. And by the way, nothing is wrong with Creole. It's a part of our culture. But the language of writing here in Jamaica is English. So the way we speak will also help. Thank you very much. You can mute yourself again. Thank you. All right. So the language that they need to write in needs to be practiced as they speak. All right. The language that the child needs to write in needs to be practiced in speech. So they need to hear us using the English. If we can't use English, then we need to engage videos, learn other learning programs that tell stories where they can actually learn English, hear English, and learn the structures. All right. Okay, so a few universal tips to support your child's learning. Every moment with your child is an opportunity to help him or her to grow in knowledge, skills, and beneficial behaviors. So every chance you get to talk with the child or to provide opportunities for the child to sit and listen to something, or you hang out with the child, read with the child so that the child can hear, is very good for him or her. So provide opportunities for the child to learn language, the language of books and school, and encourage him or her by praising him or rewarding him or her for the desired behaviors and structures that he or she uses that will help with learning. There's a reading-writing connection as well. You'll find that if a child doesn't know the words that they need to write, then there's going to be a difficulty. They may know how to speak the sentences, but don't know how to write it. So there needs to be writing practice, there needs to be reading practice, there needs to be listening practice. Okay? Here is how the connection works between reading and writing. When your child hears you read, all right, or hears somebody read, if the child hears that, the child will imitate the sounds. Even when we have our young babies and we try to talk to them, we hear them trying to talk back to us. Doesn't come out in the sounds that we make exactly, but they're trying to imitate what we say. Another thing is the child looks. If the child is able to look as the caregiver or parent, as we touch and talk about pictures, the child learns to associate words with pictures. If the caregiver touches the words as he or she reads, as the child looks on, the child learns to associate the words with the sounds. And if the child listens to recordings, to recorded stories, he or she learns the structure of language. All right. So this is the connection between reading and writing, because once they learn that mentally, when it's time to write and to think about what to say, they will think of the structures that they have been exposed to. So we want to ensure that we expose them. Now here's little Beyonce. Mommy has decided to read to her, or daddy has decided to read to her. And the book that is read has pictures. You discuss the picture with her. And there, some of them might have pictures with words. So the child is learning those as well. So it's good when you're reading together to allow the child to see what is in the book and talk about it. All right, touch and talk so that associations can be made. Now here is a tip for helping to develop writing using sight words. So when it comes to reading, we teach sight words. Teachers teach sight words, and we help them to practice sight words on word cards at home. The same word cards can be used to help them to construct sentences. So they learn to construct the sentences. What is it that you want to say? Select the sight words to make the sentence. Or at a lower level, you start the sentence and allow the child to put the rest of the words together. And this is a fun activity that can be done on the desktop or tabletop at home, having the words on cards. Now here's a jumbled sentence. If it's done like this with the word cards that would be used for reading, the child can actually construct the sentence by putting the correct word in the correct order. And in the end, you read with the child, and eventually the child reads by himself or herself the sentence that is put together. All right, so that makes it fun, so they don't always have to just write. So learning to write is not just about writing with the hand, but constructing sentences using words like this. We just move the words around. It's not just about handwriting, using the hand to write. So we need to remember that. So reading is connected this way with writing. And sentence building activities help with writing. Remember, the child doesn't have to write all the time to build a sentence, but we want to get them to the point where they actually write the sentences. So the child needs to be talking about experiences, his or her experiences. And as they talk about it, they can draw and write the sentences. So I went to school today. Draw the school, write the sentence. And then where there's difficulty, you can guide them along. Teachers do this with the children at school, and that is how they get to learn them. So now that we have the online situation where the children are at home for school, to give added practice and to help them along, to help them to grow in writing, these are some of the steps that we have to go through with them. So you ask them questions about their experiences, let them tell you in sentences, and write the sentences. To make it interesting, you draw, they can draw as well, or you can draw and have them give the sentences orally, say the sentences, and write the sentences. You can play games such as, I went walking, you start the sentence, and I saw, and you say what you saw. I went walking, and the child can supply something that he or she saw while you went walking. If it's even in your backyard, right now during COVID. Okay, retelling stories. So when you read to them and they retell the stories, they retell by talking, and you can have them, after they speak about it, retelling the story by talking, you have them write to retell the story. First of all, you may start with just one sentence. Later on, they can retell the story in more than one sentences until they get to the end. And this is how we grow gradually in the writing. So you have words, sentences, then you have groups of sentences which form a paragraph, then they can actually write essays. Filling in the blanks, where they get a sentence and they're able to write to complete the sentence. I saw, and they can put in the word by saying the word and writing the word. We can use sentence puzzles like the one that I showed you before, where they can move the word cards around. And they can also use target words to make sentences. Once the children are making sentences well, they can begin to write and give more information using more than one sentence. All right. And at first, they won't even observe necessarily punctuation marks. But teacher will teach that at school, and you reinforce it by helping them to put in punctuation marks whenever they write at home. Okay, so more practical tips. It's that filling the mind with experiences. We have to be able to help the child to fill his or her mind with experiences. We start when they're very young by reading to them. And then after a while, they themselves will learn to read because we're reading to them, reading with them. They're learning based on what is happening at school. They're being taught at school through reading. And their real life experiences help to fill their minds with ideas about what to write about and talk about as well. Books, stories, and of course, our speech patterns, as in the case with Beyonce in the comic strip. The speech patterns that they hear and see help them. The speech patterns that they hear and the structures that they read help them to learn. So actually help to fill them with the experiences that support writing. To stimulate thinking about prompts. What kind of prompts? A prompt is something that we use to help them to think. We stimulate the thinking. All right, because some children will not just come up with a sentence on their own or write about anything on their own at first. So we can use objects like a doll. The child has a doll or a car or whatever it is, a toy car, a toy. You have them talk about the toy. They can draw something that represents the toy and then write about it. Okay, so to stimulate thinking, we use objects, we use pictures, we use real life experiences, and of course we use topics, like write about my birthday party. All right, that would be a topic to write about. But if you notice, this is gradual because you start with objects first that they can see and that they can relate to. So that, and you start with them talking about it, then writing about it. And then you have them use pictures. So you start with real objects, then use pictures and real life experiences because they will be seeing real things as they go walking in the backyard and as they have certain experiences. All right, then later on they can use topics. And they can start using topics as early as like grade 1. As a matter of fact, at some basic schools, early childhood institutions, at ages 4 and 5, they're actually using objects and pictures to talk and to write. All right, in some cases, it's not expected. The Ministry of Education and the curriculum that they use with these children, they don't necessarily expect them to be doing all of this that early, but many of them do. All right, so what we do if they're at a higher level in their writing than the grade or age that they're at school is to just give them additional things to do. You know, move them to the next level. So it's good to know that you have this. You can take pictures of the slides, as I told you before. It's good to know that the steps that you can go through and the objects you can use to stimulate their thinking so they know what to write about. All right? And you can use anything in the home as an object to write about. Even you're washing and you have the child talking about the wash tub, what color it is, the size of it, is it big, is it little? You know, what is mommy doing with it? So you can even ask questions. Questioning is very good in helping children to think. So you ask questions to help them to think, to direct their thoughts about how to think about the prompt or the stimulus that you're giving them to utilize. Okay, sequencing in writing is the next step where the children are able to actually go from one, look at a picture. By the time they're at about grade 2, they should be able to look at a series of pictures like this and be able to tell a story. But first, like at grade 1, we just start with one picture. Like the first one here, if you can see little Mona right here. And the child can look at little Mona here and say Mona is at the beach, if the child knows the word beach. Grade 1 and grade 2 children should know this word, but some of them might not, because of course you have some children who are a bit delayed or are not at a certain level as others. Children move at different paces. And some of them are not necessarily delayed, they just move at a different pace. All right. So for some children at grade 1, you show them the picture like the first one, and they'll be able to tell you Mona because they're able to read the words. And if they can't read the word, you read it for them. This is Mona, and this is the word beach. What can you tell me about Mona and the beach? And the child can tell you Mona is going to the beach, or Mona is at the beach, or Mona likes to go to the beach. All right. And you go through the steps. With this, it shows you that Mona is at the beach. Then what is Mona doing at the beach? So you can ask the questions to stimulate them along the way, depending on their levels. What does Mona do when she's at the beach? So she goes into the water, she builds a sandcastle, and she eats something. In this case, what is she eating? So all of the answers that the child could give to any question you could ask about this, they can actually say the sentences and they can actually write the sentences depending on their level of development. All right. And for some children, by the time they get to grade 3, you can give them a set of pictures like this. And they can give you 4 different sentences, tell you 4 different sentences, and write 4 different sentences. This can happen at grade 3. And at grade 3, this kind of sequencing is utilized, all right? So it's okay to give them practice 1 picture at a time and get them to talk about pictures and write simple sentences about the pictures. So this is what that was completed, was done in a different way where the sentences started, each sentence is started, and the child supplies the additional word. So this actually allows the child, instead of, in the case of a child who cannot write a full sentence or has difficulty writing a full sentence, you can actually start a sentence and they can complete it. All right? So that's how you simplify it and break it down to meet the different levels of children who are moving at different paces. And don't worry if your little Mona isn't moving as fast as Beyonce, all right? Or as Mark and Peter. It is okay. You're not comparing your child with anybody else's child. You are looking at where your child is at and how you can help to support his or her writing skills as he or she grows, all right? And of course, teacher will be teaching them at home, at school, whether online or face-to-face. But this is what you can do to help along the way. Here is another story building activity. This has no words. This is for a higher level than the one I showed you before, where you just give a series of pictures. The child would have been taught to utilize these pictures, all right, to speak and to write. And this is a higher level. Up to grade 4 does picture scenes, writing skills like these. Okay. And of course, after a while, you'll be able to, a child will be able to just get a big picture. Thank you. All right, the child can get a big picture after a while and just look at it, pick up details from it, and be able to write an entire story. All right. Then we have at the primary level, as early as grade 3, grade 4, we try to help them to use aspects of the writing process to help to correct themselves. So you know a sentence orally, you can say the sentence, you write the sentence, but sometimes the words are not in the right places, or you might not choose the right word. So you have to revise the sentence. So this step here, the blue one, revise, where you change your writing to make it better, is a good thing for you to have them do at home as they write. Allow them to try to correct themselves first before you try to give them the correction. Let them try to help themselves first. So you ask the question, read the sentence for me. What do you think is wrong with it? Ask questions like these. How would you fix it? And if they have difficulty, then you can supply answers. You can help them more closely. But let them try first to help themselves. The other part that is very important between grade 3 and grade 4 is the editing stage, where at that stage they check the spelling in the writing process. They check the spelling, whether their words are spelled correctly. You can help them to check it. But at first, you let them try to correct it before you tell them what to do. All right? This is an entire writing process that is utilized up to any level, all the way up to university level. But for us at this stage, as they write simple sentences, we try to help them to revise and edit their work. Okay? And there are different types of writing, of course. They write for different purposes. So we write with a purpose. After a while, by the time they get to grade 4 or 5, you're talking about narrating, writing a story as against writing to give information, as against writing to persuade somebody to be able to convince somebody about something that you have to say. For example, a letter to the editor, a letter to the mayor of Kingston about the garbage on the road. Informative, persuasive, there are many different types. But by the time they get to grade 5, 6, they are learning about narration, which is the writing of stories. They are learning about writing to give information, whether in letter form or essay form however you do it, and they get prompts that tell them to write to different persons. So whatever support is needed for this area, you can actually utilize like YouTube videos and other internet sources that can help the child to learn more about the different types of writing, especially between grades 5, and 6, to learn more about these types of writing. And there are other types, but at the primary level, up to the primary level, we try to expose them to this kind. For example, if you ask them to write about a science topic that they learned in class, that's giving information, that's informative writing. All right, so you can actually use writing as well to help them to learn other content areas, or pull what you want them to write about from what they're learning at school. So you can ask, what did you learn at school in class today in science? And they tell you, oh, the water cycle. What did you learn? They tell you, okay, can you write to inform me about the water cycle? You're teaching me about the water cycle now. So you let them write, give them opportunities to write what they learned, to give information to you about what they've learned. And that's a way to continue to build their skills and help them to grow. Common writing formats are dialogue, comic strip, letter writing. I mentioned letter a while ago, essays and poems. Teachers will teach them how to do these, and you just support by asking them, showing them pictures and asking them how they would want to present what they're writing. And there are other prompts, worded prompts, written prompts that you can actually utilize in helping them to write in different ways. You don't need to be teaching them. Teacher will teach, right? But so you don't need to feel the burden of trying to teach them, but what you want to be doing is support the children. Now, here are some websites that, these are some videos that I actually selected, different websites that can help the children in different ways. You can actually take a picture of it if you wish, and you can actually have them go to those sites to learn, depending on their level, to learn more about early writing, to learn more in terms of letters, forming letters and so on. Developing, you can learn more as well about other ways of developing their muscles for those who have the young children, their finger muscles, fine motor skills. And for the others, you have paragraph writing, essay writing, all kinds of things, and they're all over the internet. So we want to ensure that we're utilizing whatever resources are available to us to support our children's writing development. So here are a few sites. These are just a few, not exhaustive at all. And you can actually go to others. Help them to go there and go to others as well and learn more. All right, because now that you have online learning and they're not at school as much, teacher may not be able to give them as much as when they're face-to-face. So you also want to ensure that you send them or help them to find some of these teaching helps, writing helpers to listen to and to follow the directions. All right. Okay, are there any questions? We're actually at the end at this time. Are there any questions? You can, if you have a question you want to ask, you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and share one or two at this time. Share a few questions at this time. Any question about what is shared or any experience you have had that you'd want to be clarified? Anybody who has a question you want to share, you can unmute your mic and speak, please. And for others, you can put it in the chat, and Mrs. Carr will ensure that those are dealt with. She will check the chat for us. All right.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon, Ms. Myers.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm Nordia Smith. I just want to clarify some misconception about using about the 5 to 6 year olds writing in 3 lines and 2 spaces.
Yes.
At what level, like when they reach the transition stage to go over to primary school, should they stop or should they continue?
Should they stop what? Stop using, first of all, you would start by using the 3 lines.
Right, and 2 spaces. So.
Right, to guide them as to how to get the letters to sit and to sit in relation to each other on the line. So you don't have some, like an E up in the air and the bump of a B below the bottom line. So the 3 line is actually to help them to gauge how to put the letters beside each other when they're writing words. So that usually begins earlier, like class 2, class 3. Yes. Really and truly, the ministry does not expect the children to learn to write, but at the different institutions, as educators and managers at the schools, we want to be able to move the children along as they're able. So some children will leave, many children will leave writing. So they start using the 3-line at the basic school level, really. By the end of grade 1, the teachers will start to direct them to write in just 2 lines. So they're now able to practice to gauge how the letters fit beside each other without that middle line that they would be using earlier. And sometimes when you move like that, they would be writing very pretty in the 3 lines, very neatly in the 3 lines. And when it gets to 2 lines, when they have to gauge it for themselves, it becomes more difficult for them, and the handwriting goes changes, or it's not as beautiful. And sometimes those parents will get upset. Well, you used to write better at basic school. But that's a part of the transition. So the transition to the 2 lines begin, to the just 2 lines, writing between 2 lines, actually begins at late grade 1.
Okay,
did I answer your question, Nadia?
Yes, Miss. Thank you very much.
But if your child is able to move along faster, by all means, let them go, let them do it, all right? It will be better for them anyway.
Right.
Yes, I was hearing someone. I was hearing someone else.
Austin is also asking. Yes, this is Mrs. Carr. So Miss Austin is also asking for you to share the websites again.
Okay, okay, so you can take a picture. Yes, there it is. You can take a picture of it. Anybody else? Is there any other question, Mrs. Carr? And if anybody else has a question, you can share it. Share that question now. Are there any more questions?
Miss Sims says that her 4 or 5-year-old is writing but not consistent. So how can she get him to be more consistent?
When she says not consistent, what does she mean? What is her name, Miss Austin or Simpson? Miss Austin, Mrs. Carr? Miss Sims, can you unmute your mic, please, and explain what you mean by, yes.
In other words, he will write properly, and then maybe at one point, and maybe by halfway through, or maybe the next time he's writing another sentence or so, he goes back to writing, right, not properly.
Right. Okay. And thank you. And how old is your child?
He's 4. He's gonna be 5 in December.
He's 4. Well, I tell you, if he's writing and you can read what he writes at 4, he's doing very well. But to ensure that he's able to progress the way that you want him to, in terms of being consistent, it just comes with practice. It comes with practice. So you might want to have daily activities if you want, a little session, if it's even a little 5 minutes for him to write 2 words beside each other. Add 3 words another day. Because one of the things too is that when the children at that age, they don't always see an entire letter, you know, when they look at what is on a page, and if they're copying what is on the page, sometimes they don't even see an entire letter. They see parts of the letters. And they don't see whole words. They see parts of the words. And it can be very exhausting, very tiresome for them, both mentally and physically, to keep on track. The only thing that helps is more practice. But if he's consistent at 3 words, you let him practice 3 words for a while, then add 1 more word. If it's not even a complete sentence, you add 1 more word. And so he gets to focus little by little, or she gets to focus little by little along the way. Because they really don't see all that we see when you look at anything that is written. All right? Does that answer your question, Miss? You're welcome. Okay. All right. Are there any more questions?
I see Miss Carlin Brown hand being raised here. Miss Brown, do you have a question?
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Brown, I'm hearing you.
You had presented a slide that spoke about thinking, I believe. I think it was 8 slides before. Is it possible for you to go back to that slide?
Okay, about thinking, tell me what it is again.
I'm not sure. I think if you go back, then I'll be able to tell you which one. It's before you had done the example about Mona.
Okay. Stimulating thinking. This one? Is
Right,
it this
this
one?
one, right. So I was wondering if you could give a little bit more, be a little bit more specific in terms of examples for each, for the object, the
Okay.
current, pictures, real life experiences, topics,
All
etc.
right. All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Brown. Thank you. All right. For objects, you can use anything. It can be anything in the home, but you can start with what the child is familiar with and used to utilizing. For example, a toy, a favorite toy, that's an object that the child can talk about and then write about. And in doing this, if the child has a doll named Pam, and you can ask the child questions. So who is this? Who is this, Mona? And the child says, Pam. All right. So you say, so this is Pam. And you let her repeat it. And say what I said. This is Pam. And the child will say, this is Pam. So the object itself is the toy, but you're having a conversation about it. And as you have the conversation, you're even helping the child, giving the child examples to imitate. So the child, if you say, who is this, Mona? And Mona says, Pam, you can put it in a sentence. This is Pam. Say, this is Pam. This is Pam. Or say, her name is Pam. Her name is Pam. So you give the structure like that. So you talk about it first. So you ask questions to get the child to tell you something about something very familiar, and then have the child write. As long as the child can write, you have the child write. Now, while the child is writing, if there's any difficulty with the words, again, the reading writing connection, you can use word cards to help the child learn the words, or you can write it. This is Pam. You write it, and then let the child copy it. This is Pam, or her name is Pam. That's for objects. So you can start with that one. If the child has a pet, you can have a child talk about the pet. Remember, we talk about the avenues for giving them ideas for writing. So you can have the child talk about the pet, write about the pet, and read back to you what he or she writes. And you can go through as well, look at it, have the child make any corrections that need to be made. But what you would do is just not say, but that is wrong. You don't want to say that is wrong. You want to just say it the correct way and help the child to move along the sentences, read along with the child what he or she has written to see if the sentence is actually what it should be. So that's for object, any object at all. Doll, pet, then you can go to other things in the kitchen, things in the bedroom, things in the backyard. So you start first by using things that are familiar within the child's environment. That's for objects. For pictures, we would expect, and many of us have done this, where we would have been reading to our children from they were born. And even before they're born, we're reading to them. A lot of the books that we read and stories that we read are simple books with pictures, and some of them are one line or sentences. So you have a picture and just one sentence that talks about the picture. This too will inform you of what kind of material to ensure that you have when you're buying a storybook for your child. In the early stages, you buy storybooks that have pictures and have like one line sentences, not too many words, and you read it to them. Have them look at it while you read it. So the picture from a book like that could be utilized just like the object, where you ask the child questions about the picture, and then it transfers to writing what they're saying and correcting what they're saying by using the revising and editing, as I show you, of the writing process. Real life experience is the same thing, where you go outside with the child, you're having a little nature walk with little Tommy. You ask Tommy, so what is this, Tommy? Tommy said, flowers. You say, it is a flower. Say that, Tommy. It is a flower. Then we're going inside. You can even pick one of, have Tommy pick a flower. You pick the flower for him or her, for him, and you take it inside and you say, okay, now we're going to draw the flower, or we're going to write about the flower. All right. Or if Tommy can't draw it, you draw it. You can write the sentence. For the children, we're not writing yet full sentences. You write the sentence and allow them to copy. So copying also helps. Copying what you write also helps. And of course, later on, you have topics where you just say, my pet. The same pet that the child was talking about earlier, and you have the simple breakdown of the activity in writing for it. The same pet can be used as a big topic, my pet. And now Tommy will have a lot of things to say about the pet, because you've been talking about the pet, writing about the pet in little pieces. All right. Have I sufficiently answered your question?
Just one more point. In terms of the real life experiences with
Yes.
a child being young, is it a case where I do the same thing like with the objects where I create the structure of the statement so that the child be better able to express their emotion based on the experience that they have and then write that down?
That too, and in schools we tend to use what we call journal entry writing for that. We use journals and allow the child to express how his or her, he or she is feeling. So we use journal writing to express feelings. So at school, that is done that way. You can have that too, where there's a notebook where the child is able to write just about, sir, please, sir. Answer, please. Where the child is able to write about, I'm sorry about that. The child is able to write about his or her feelings about things and experiences that he or she has. So that's journal writing. You can have a journal at home. Teachers use them at school. Is that sufficient for your answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. Okay, if there are no more questions, are there any more questions? If there are no more questions, then we're really at the end. And to close off, I'm going to ask you while I'm closing to put your real names in the, if you would like a certificate of attendance, put your real name in the chat along with the parish you're from. We'd love to know which parish you're from. Also, if you did not log on to this workshop through events, right? Then we're asking you as well to put your email address so that we'll have an active email address to utilize with you. All right. Food for thought as we close. So put your name, real name, and the parish you're from in the chat if you would like to have a certificate of attendance. And while you do that, I would like to just share this with you. Food for thought. Parenting is the easiest thing in the world to have an opinion about, but the hardest thing in the world to do. So many people will have a lot of opinions about what you're doing with your children. You know, it's very easy to do that, but it is hard to do. And so we try to support each other. So you get help from other persons to help to support what you're trying to do with your child when it comes to writing. Okay, we have to prepare the child for the path, not the path for the child. So that is why we don't want to be doing everything for them. We want to allow them to develop the skills. So we give them practice, opportunities for practice of the skills so that they can follow the path they choose later on as they develop in their writing. All right. And everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. So while our culture is wonderful in our language, so for example, our language, we are not to be mastered by culture so much that we think, but Creole is our thing, so that's what we're using. We want to be able to create a culture that supports our children's learning. All right, so create that culture, writing culture in your home. Reading goes hand in hand with writing. So a reading, writing culture that will support the child's learning. And make choices that will make learning and achieving academically easier for your child. So I'd like to leave you with that as you continue to put your information in the chat. And we are through for this afternoon. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. It was great being with you, and I hope you have learned something that you can feel better about how to support your child as he or she grows in writing. All right, thank you. Continue to put whatever you need to put in the chat in the meantime. So thank you very much and goodbye.
Colleen?
Yes.
Hi,
yes.
Colleen. Can you just leave up the slide with the YouTube website? Someone's asked to see them again. So can you just leave that slide up for a few minutes? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. There it is.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. As Ms. Myers has indicated, we are at the formal end of our presentation today. I'm just going to give it one more minute for persons to have the opportunity to place their name, their parish, as well as their email contact if you would like a certificate of attendance. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Take care.
Okay, so someone was asking about how to build fine motor skills. If that person is right here, could you please just unmute your mic and speak to me?
Hi, Miss Myers.
Okay, is that Kay? That's Kay?
It's Karen, yes, it is Karen. It's Spalding. It's Karen Spalding, yes, hi. I should actually say her age. She's actually 10 years old.
Okay, she's 10 years old.
Yeah, she's 10 years old, non-verbal. And I try actually everything I can think of. I sound the letters on her hands, you know, make space so she could feel the vibration. Get big crayons. If you hold her hand, she'll do it. But when you give her a pencil and say, okay, and you say, follow my pencil from here. So I'll put my pencil down and say, give her a pencil and say, follow my pencil. She'll just stand there and cry. Sometimes I feel I failed her, even though I just had her like, she's 11 November. So I only have her a couple times working with, but she will not do it. She just stand there and cry. I use oil to massage her hands, give her squeeze balls, just everything you can think of. Sensory. I let her do sensory stuff. So I'm wondering if she's sensitive to touch. Yeah. But that's the only thing that could have kept her from not. Go ahead, I'm listening.
And did you ever have her assessed?
Yes, her mommy, I think.
Have you ever had her assessed?
Her mommy, yes, I think her mommy has her assessed. But because I even asked them to have her learning sign language as a means of communication, just in case anything happens to her, she could say what is, but not even that she will not take to. She will not even take to that. So I don't know
Okay.
what else there is. Is there an assessment that can be done, or I don't know. I referred her to MycoCare, and I
Yeah.
think they had a pediatrician from a long time who were making recommendations along the way. Because she has always been in
Yeah.
school. That's the thing.
She has always been in school, and
Always been in school.
when she goes to school at this age, is she at a special school?
She was at a special school. She was at 2 special schools. And that's where I met her, at one of the special schools. And I leave, and she came along with me to where I am now.
Because it
It's
means there might
online
be
learning
something.
now. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, there may be something else that is causing that, which is why I asked you about the assessment.
I asked her mommy to get her reassessed lately, but because of the COVID, I think the date, she weren't getting much dates. She wasn't getting any date, but I think Michael Care had referred her to St. Anne, that there was a date down in the office in St. Anne, which I'm not sure she took up that offer. I'm not sure. I have not spoken to her since.
Okay, it sounds like you need more information about what is happening with her. And continuing with practice is okay. Squeezing the balls, putting
beads.
Putting
I should
like
get beads.
sticks or
Yeah.
straws into like that black pepper shaker.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
might have an empty
Yeah.
black pepper shaker. Have you
Yeah.
ever done an activity where you put it into
Yeah,
the
what I
hole?
did was make her hand in a cardboard and punch holes around it so she could lace it right around the hand shape.
And so she did lacing as well.
No, she just
And
went 2 lace and stop, man.
no, she has to continue. She has to continue. But I think further assessment is necessary.
Yeah, I think so too.
Further assessment is necessary because it might be something else that's causing it. But in the meantime, you don't want to feel helpless. It's for her to continue doing what you're able to do. And if all she can do is 2 lacing for now, that's okay. And you celebrate it and say, let's try for 3.
Oh yes, I
you
do.
know?
I do.
And,
I try to bribe
other
her as
areas,
much, but
okay. But
it doesn't work.
Be patient with her.
Yes, it is.
With her
It is a lot of
get her
patience.
assessed and to find out what else. But I know it must be rough because at that age you want to see her flying.
Yes.
You want to see her moving along the way that is expected.
Yeah.
But I think assessment is necessary to find out further. Mrs. Carr, you're saying something?
Yes, I wanted to ask her, have you tried typing? Have you tried typing anything to see if she could develop keyboard skills? Because that's
she
an
has
alternative.
a laptop. Yeah, she does have a laptop. And the thing is, both parents are teachers. Both parents are teachers and they're very supportive. So we're like out of options. So she has the support at home and she has it with me. But I'm not sure. Like you said, Ms. Myers, I just think there's something else. So I would ask her to
there's something else. But that suggestion, and that suggestion that Mrs. Carr made, it's an excellent suggestion. When you have her, you have her type like her name.
Yes.
And she does that okay. She's able to focus and have the eye and coordination to touch the keys.
Yes. All I have, if I rest my hand on her hand, she will do stuff. But if I take my hand away, she will not do anything else. So I'm constantly holding her hand to trace with dry marker rubber from the board, and all those stuff. But if I move my hand, so I would rest my hand on hers and she will do it.
So even when she's typing, you have to rest your hand on hers?
Yes, I have to rest my hand on hers. I don't know if it's a security thing or it's a sense of feeling sick. I don't know what it is, but I'm not sure. But I know the school she was coming from, she was not being treated properly. So that's why the mom had moved her, because it was a bit. So I think the trauma from that, but as I said, she doesn't speak.
And of course,
so
she's very insecure about what she's able to do.
Yes.
She doesn't speak either?
No, she doesn't speak
either.
No, she doesn't speak. She's nonverbal.
Good afternoon, Miss K. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon, Miss K. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma'am.
This is Unique Matthews. Hi, this is Unique Matthews, one of the psychologists at the MycoCare Center.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you a question about this child in particular. How is her ability to grasp in general? How is her fine motor in general?
She on a
Can she
scale of
hold a
10.
spoon to eat properly?
Oh yes, yes, she does. She does, and she will
Okay.
play. She will play if the kids are playing with a ball. She will gradually play with them.
Okay.
Only when it
Okay,
comes to writing, she will climb the swing, move the monkey, go on the monkey bar and stuff. But she will not hold
So she has
hold
a
a pencil.
she's a good grasp with
Yes,
her
she
hands.
does. Yes.
Okay.
I've tried
And
the
as I
grip.
said, she can gripping of her meal,
A
eating
pencil. Oh
utensils.
sure. Oh sure.
Okay. Picking up things with just 2 fingers, like you're pinching Cheerios or picking up cereal with just 2 or 3 fingers. Can she do that
Oh, I've
well?
missed that one. I've not done that part. But I know she
Okay.
can, she will hold and open a bag. But normally with her, she will just come for the scissors and just hand me the bag and the thing. But she will
Okay. Can
not
she
pinch and
unscrew a
tear.
bottle of? Okay. So check on her ability to pinch. Can she unscrew a bottle of water
Okay.
or help herself? Can
All right.
she open a twist
Pinch
bottle?
and twist. Okay.
Yes. Because what I'm suggesting is that you may want to suggest that her parents get her evaluated in addition to the microcare center, but get evaluated by an occupational therapist.
OP, okay.
That's a field that's OP, yeah.
Yeah.
OT.
OT, yeah, man.
Field that's specifically,
yeah, man, OT, yeah.
It's
all right.
It sounds very much based on what you've presented here today. It sounds like it may be a child who should be evaluated by an OT.
Okay, I think so too.
And they would be able to much more specifically address these concerns with her weak fine motor skills. If she can more or less do everything else in a fine motor way, but the specific is holding a writing utensil or a narrow utensil, as I said, moving from jumbo crayons to something as narrow as a straw, or even can she even hold a stick of pasta, right? An unboiled stick of pasta. So just moving down the size of those objects. If she's having a lot of difficulties with that, moving, as I said, from a large object all the way down to a stick of spaghetti.
Yes,
ma'am. Or even picking up the elbow, spaghetti elbows, those different size spaghettis. I would highly recommend that you suggest to the family to get her evaluated with an occupational therapist.
All right.
There's a National Occupational Therapists Association, so the family can get in contact with them to get into the referral system. I believe that the Bustamante Children's Hospital also has a professional who does that type of work there. I can't speak to the waiting list. I can't speak to adjustments or restrictions given COVID.
Yes,
but
I know.
I do recommend that that's the type of professional that they should consider having her evaluated by.
All right. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it, Bustamante Hospital.
You're very welcome.
All right, so I'll pass this information on as I'm finished here. Thank you so much.
Yes, so the Bustamante Hospital, as well as there is a national association in Jamaica. There's a national association in Jamaica, for OT.
All right,
so you can look into that to get a referral from them. Yes.
All right.
National Association.
It's the National Association.
So much, Ms. Matthews. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you, and same to you. Take care.
All right, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thanks again for joining us this afternoon. We are formally going to close off this workshop, so do have a good afternoon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Yannick.